My name is Adam. I'm 37 years old. I was born in March, and I was raised in a Pentecostal house. I got saved at the age of 7, and filled with the Holy Ghost, and played mandolin at our church and things. And I had a good, you know, life. But long about 12 or 13 years old, I started getting some church hurt. Um, some of the kids in the church wasn't allowed to come to my house because we had a TV or a game system with a certain game that they didn't like, and it was a strict ruled church. You couldn't wear shorts, or you was going to hell. You had to wear your hair a certain way. Suit and tie on Sundays, or you was frowned upon. Jeans were no good. Uh, so it just kept eating at me. So long about 15 years old, that's when I really just had enough of so-called church and Christian and God, and just started turning to the world as far as trying to, I guess, fill that void of feeling loved by people and accepted. Um, got into pain pills really, really bad, smoking weed, and of course, girls. Um, and then I was about 18, 19 years old. I got introduced to the Ouija board, and started messing around with that a little bit. And we got a spell book, so to say, and we was practicing seances and all that stuff. And the whole time I didn't realize how far I was getting away from what I actually needed. And so I started seeing some nights throughout my, between them age gaps, I was seeing spirits in my side of my room, or uh, following me. And it sounds crazy. And I thought I was crazy at first too. I was like, is this stuff even real at one time? And so one night I got woke up. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I got woke up out of a dead sleep. I couldn't move my body. Only thing I can do just look with my eyes. And there was a man standing in the corner of my room, and he was on fire. And his skin would fall, and he'd reach down and he'd pick it back up, and he just sitting there just laughing at me. And I couldn't say nothing, but my mom popped in my room and she started praying and hollering out for Jesus. And instantly that demonic feeling was gone. And so that Sunday I went back to church, and I was about 20. And I rededicated my life, so to say. And that lasted a whole 2 weeks maybe. And then I got back out and just got wild again. Started bar hopping, uh, doing pretty much anything uh, that you'd call sin. That was my lifestyle. I didn't want nothing to do with God. Uh, I thought every Christian was like the Christians that I dealt with in the past. And even though they was good people, their principles were way off. And looking back at it now, I can see why the church didn't grow. It was stuck with the same old people, the same old songs, the same old sermons, and uh, which it does have its good, but it's still a lot of trauma there. Um, so fast forward, I met my wife. I was I'm going to butcher this. I was 20. I was 26, 26, 27. I met my wife, and she at one time didn't even know if there was a God, nothing. Uh, she wasn't raised in a church. And fell in love with her, got married, and my mom and dad started taking her to church a little bit here and there. And I still didn't want nothing to do with it. Well, she told me that there was a 99.9% she could never get pregnant. She had her right tube and right ovaries taken out. So I would never be a biological father, which we have 4 kids before. So one day she called me at work. She's like, I think I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh, you just ate something bad, whatever. And she's like, I went through this 4 times. I think I know when I'm pregnant. I'm like, well, go get it checked out. So she went to the doctor, got it checked out, and sure enough, she was pregnant. So about 3 months into pregnancy, the doctors called us in, and they wanted to do a emergency abortion. They said that they found cancer in my wife. So at this time, I was working 65, 70 hours a week. We was going through things in our life, money problems, whatever. So all this hit me, and I completely just flipped. I couldn't function. I couldn't leave my house. So I wound up losing my job because the doctor prescribed me kind of like Xanax because I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't do nothing. So the whole outgoing, crazy Adam was gone. Couldn't even walk to the mailbox without having a bottle of water, thinking I was going to choke or pass out. Something stupid. It's always something stupid. So so we meet with the doctor. Whew, and my wife tells him, she said, I don't know how long I've had this cancer, but we're not going to do an abortion. We're going to go as long as we can. And then whatever we got to do then we'll take them steps. So we was 2 weeks away from being full term. I think about 2 weeks. And Sissy, she came out perfect. No problems. Uh, Healthy. And I was still just having these. My life was a living hell. I contemplated doing it on several occasions. And I can remember one. I was on my front porch, and I about let the devil win. And my little girl popped out. She said, I love you, Daddy. This is like 1:30 in the morning. I don't even know what she was doing up. I said, I love you too. And then she said, Nana told you to take me to church. I said, oh, is that right? She said, yeah. And this was the night before Easter. I think in 21. So she laid on the swing with me. And I believe Jesus sent her to save me right then, bro, for what I was going to do. The next morning, I had my other 3 daughters there too. So the next morning, uh, I got up and I said, everybody, let's get our clothes on. We're going to go to church. They looked at me funny. They was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, we're gonna go to church." They was like, "Where are we going?" I said, "Well, let's get in the truck. And every time we hit a stop sign or a red light, y'all say left, right, forward, and wherever we land, we just land." They said, "All right." So we get in the truck, we take off. Get to the first stop sign, they say go left. We get to a red light. They say go straight. Next stop sign, they say take a left. And then they say take another left, and we landed at Field of Grace parking lot. And came to church, and I don't really remember what that message was he preached, but it was on the lines of has something to do with the prodigal son or something, or what he said had the prodigal son in it, and it just kept eating at me. So I rededicated myself to back to Jesus that morning, not for feelings, not for it was life or death for me. Um, and before that morning, 4 years leading up to that, for 4.5 years, I would try to suffocate the pain and the mentalness out of what I was going through with pain medication. And I mean overdoing the pain medication. And that's what I survived on. It would change my mentality, and I thought I needed that. Thought I couldn't function because I had to have a head change. I couldn't have my mind on all that stuff. But today I rededicated back to Jesus. I haven't touched any pain medication. And I remember going home, and for the first week, I went through really bad withdrawals. It was the worst thing I thought a time I'd ever went through. Uh, but my little girl, she would bring me a stuffed animal, and she would actually pray with me. Um, but I think at that point in life, when I just had enough and I completely broke down, I think everything I did leading up to that was involved. The demonic things I had coming in, the drugs, the this, um, shunning away from God, not wanting nothing to do with Him or Christian people. Um, it took a 3-year-old little girl to break me that Jesus sent, because she was a blessing from Jesus to begin with. Um, but still, this day, I'm sober. I'm not the best Christian by no means. I'm a trying Christian. Um, I've been back in church, I guess, for 4 years. I'm one of the drummers at our church. Um, my wife's a Sunday school teacher sometimes. All of my kids are saved, besides the youngest. She will be once she understands it. Um, but I can say we go from a turmoiled, broken family to a Christian family. Um, but there is still days that I do get in my own head. But as soon as I feel it coming on, I can pray, and that feeling of depression, anxiety just leaves. It's not like a depression, like, oh, I ain't got no money, or it was. I feel like it was literal warfare on my soul. That is my story for His glory.
I'm Amanda. I'm 35 years old. I have 5 kids. Um, when I was younger, my mom was a drug addict. My dad was an alcoholic. He wasn't like in the picture. My mom was. She was a good mom, like as good as mom as she could be in addiction. Um, we moved a lot. I didn't have like a lot of stable friends, a lot of um, I don't know. I didn't really have anybody but my mom. My mom was but we were really close my whole life. My sister moved out when I was like 12. She was 15 just because she was tired of everything that we had been through. But I did see my dad some, not a whole lot. I went and seen him every other weekend, and I was probably like 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old, and was at his house or at a friend's of his house, and they were all drinking and playing cards and doing whatever they do. And I was in the bedroom with my sister and a couple other kids our age, but there was an older boy in there, and all the other kids had left. And it was like my dad's girlfriend's nephew or something. I don't know. He was like 15 or 16. And I don't remember a lot of what happened, but I know something happened because, like, I can vividly remember my dad and his grandpa, like, hurting him really bad, and it was because of me. But, like, I've blocked out a lot of what actually happened in the bedroom that day. So I know that it's part of healing that I need to try to figure it out because it's part of what I've been through and I want to know. But, um, so that's like when a lot of things happened with my dad. My mom didn't want me to go back over there, so I stopped going over there for a long time, and then I was just stayed home. And then my mom met another person, another man, and we moved. And she moved me out of my school again. That was in 5th grade. And then in 6th grade, we went to stay at his house, which is like around here. And he tried to do things and do some really perverted things. And my mom never believed me that he did it. Like, he never actually done that, but he done other things. And she never believed me. She always just kind of blew it off. And then they got busted for a meth lab when I was in 8th grade. And they both went to jail. And my mom, I was seeing her off and on in jail. She was in there like 5 years. And she finally, said that she was sorry for not believing me. He had wrote her a letter and admitted to it and told her that he needed to get it off of his chest and like stop hiding and lying from it and stuff. So she apologized to me, and we started like healing our relationship from there. But that's like after she went to jail for her meth lab and stuff, that's when I started like dabbling in drugs, and I was smoking weed and just doing young teenager stuff, just smoking cigarettes, just being rebellious because my mom was gone and I was staying with my grandparents and I just really didn't care. Um, and then I got pregnant with my son when I was 16. It was a couple months before I turned 17. And he was 3 months old, and I got in a really bad car accident on my way to work. And that's when I was introduced to pain pills. And I'd always said, I'll never do hard drugs. I'll never be like my mom. I'll always be good to my kids. I'll never, everything everybody wants to think. I wanted to be the best mom I could be for my son. And so after I'd been on the pain pills for a little while and I was starting to get better, they were like, well, you need to come off of them. Well, it was really hard for me to come off of them, not only just because pain pills are addicting, but I also do believe because my mom's an addict, my dad's an alcoholic, that whole, I don't know if it's genetic or not, but I feel like it is. So they told me to go to the methadone clinic, is what the doctor showed me to do. So I went to the methadone clinic, which was one of the worst mistakes of my life because that stuff is more addicting than any other pain medicine can ever be. Um, So I started going there. I was going there a couple of years, and I got pregnant with my daughter and went through the whole methadone thing the whole time I was pregnant. She was born and went through withdrawals, and that was awful. Um, and then I decided I was going to leave my kid's dad because he started doing heroin and stuff again. And their grandma and grandpa didn't want me to leave and take the kids. I wasn't doing any drugs. I was doing methadone, but I wasn't doing any hard drugs at that time because she didn't want me to take the kids. So she filed charges saying I broke into her house, and I was arrested. I didn't break in her house. I was living there, but that's besides the point. I was arrested. Well, while I was arrested, I got served papers saying that she had got custody of the kids, like emergency custody or whatever. And so I got out and was fighting for the kids. And every time I would get like a little bit of headway, they would like take it all the way back. And it's kind of like a never ending battle. So I just finally was like, you know what? If I can't have them back and y'all ain't gonna let me see them, I'm gonna do whatever I wanna do. So then I got really bad. Then that's when I started like shooting up heroin and shooting up meth. And I went the complete opposite end of what I should have been doing. And then I got pregnant again and I stopped. I actually went back to the methadone clinic because I didn't know how to stop doing everything I was doing. And the doctors told me not to just quit everything because of being pregnant, that I needed help to quit everything. So I went back to the clinic. Um, I had my daughter, and she was actually okay. She didn't have any withdrawals at all. She was okay. I was fine. I had custody of her. Everything went good for a long time. And then I slipped up, and their dad started doing Xanaxes and stuff and just doing just dabbling in drugs again. So then I started doing it too. And then I got pregnant with Kylie. And so I stopped everything again. And after Kylie was born, their grandma tried to take or did take custody of them. And that was in May of 2015. And I was like, I'm not gonna live without my kids. Like, I can't do this again. Something's gotta give. So I didn't go to the clinic. I just got clean that time. And I was clean for like all the way up until July. She let me see them. And then I got some of my custody back. It was like 1 day a week or something, but it was good. It was what I needed. And then a couple months went by, and I got locked up for something that I had done before, like before all that had happened. And so I don't really remember what happened in between July and November, but I know that I did relapse in that time, but it was for like 3 months. So in November or October, no, October 15th, 2015, I got locked up, and my mom got me out, and she was like, we're not going to do this no more. So she kind of like kidnapped me and told me I had to stay with her all the time. I had to go to work with her. I had to go everywhere with her because she had a bond out on me. So I did, and my husband now used to come into the store every day before work and get cigarettes and stuff. And one day I asked my mom if I could go out to eat with him, and she was like, I guess, yeah, he's a good guy. She was like, he don't do anything. He's good. She was like, I'll let you go eat with him. So I asked him, I was like, are you going to take me out to dinner? And he was like, maybe. So like it just kept going on for a couple days. Well, then he finally said, yeah, we'll go out. So that night he showed up at my house. We went out to dinner. We laughed and talked the whole night. And I literally told him everything. I was like, I got 4 kids by 2 different dads. I've only been clean for 2 weeks off drugs. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, my parents are Pentecostal and I'm super into like God and Jesus. And my parents are not going to accept you. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Well, he still kept texting and calling and texting and talking to me. And he was like, "You know what I think the whole reason why you keep going back to drugs is?" And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "'Cause you haven't found Jesus." And I was like, "That's the only thing I haven't tried." I was like, "Let's try it. Maybe it'll work, you know?" And so I started praying. I wasn't saved yet, but I was praying and did have a little bit of a relationship with God, but I didn't really know what being saved was. So we was together every day. We were like inseparable after that, and that was in November. In January, we got married, and I haven't touched any drugs or anything since that day. But we still wasn't necessarily living right. Like he had left his parents' church because they were judgmental of his tattoos and stuff. So he never really wanted to go back to church, but he always had God, you know, and he would always pray and we would pray together. And so he really wanted a kid, but I had told him that, you know, when we was dating, I didn't think I could have any more kids. I'd had a tubal pregnancy and they told me I couldn't have any. And so he kept getting really upset because like other people can have kids and he couldn't. And I knew he would be like the greatest dad ever. So we just kept praying and trying. And, you know, we knew that if it was meant to be, it would happen. So I got pregnant with Paisley in 2018 and I was 20 weeks pregnant and they called us into the doctor and said that I had cervical cancer and they wanted to terminate my pregnancy and start treatment. And I was like, this is too much. I was like, I'll let y'all know something later. I was like, I can't even process all this right now. So we went home and his parents prayed and I prayed and we talked and I was like, you know, I don't know how long this has been here, but I feel like, you know, if we can keep her in there like 10 more weeks, then, you know, she could live. I was like, but if we do it now, she's not going to. So I went to the cancer center and I agreed to have them check it like once a week and do blood work and all that stuff to see if it was getting any bigger, or growing, or anything. And they said that that was fine. We could watch it and they would give me, you know, the 10 weeks. So we did that and I went every week and every week everything was the same. And I had her at 36 weeks and she was healthy and beautiful. And then right after I had her, they did surgery and did treatments and all that. And everything ended up good. Everybody was alive and healthy and it was great. But because I knew that that was like his only chance at being a dad. I knew if I terminated that pregnancy and they did the surgery that they wanted to do, there was no chance I would ever get pregnant again. So, um, during all that, he started doing stuff that he wasn't supposed to be doing to kind of help with his anxiety of everything that was going on with me and the baby. And it like killed my soul because like I didn't ever think he would be the one to do all that stuff, you know? So that was really hard, but it really tested my faith and my sobriety and God. Even though at this time I still wasn't saved, I still prayed all the time and stayed clean through all of it. And then after Paisley was born, we wanted to find a church. She was little and Nana and Papa was going to church and she was like, why don't y'all take us to church? And so we was all in the car and he asked Kenzie and Kylie, he was like, if you want to go left, we'll find the first church we see and we'll go there. And if you want to go right, we'll find the first church we see and we'll go there. And we turned left and a mile down the road, we pulled in here. And we was only here for a couple months and I got saved. And of course he had been saved when he was a kid, but our lives have been, you know, all of our kids go to church here. Both of my older girls were saved here. It's been amazing to see what God has done just in our life just since then. But the whole time he was there, you know, and now I know that. And even like going from the time when I very first started praying in my addiction, you know, when I was coming out of my addiction to even when I got saved, like I had a relationship with him the whole time. I just never really I never officially, got saved, but he was there through all of that, and I know that. And he, helped me with Paisley and getting her here safe, and it's been it's actually been really awesome to be here and try to help other people, like going back to jail and helping them people that was where I was, and I was in and out of jail, but that very last time that I went, when I just didn't want to do it anymore, I want to help those people. I want to help the ones that don't feel like they have any other hope, because if I wouldn't have met my husband at the gas station, being with my mom that has no idea how she saved me, but she did just by making me go to work with her, just seeing how it all like come together is just, it's really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could see that God had a plan,
Yeah.
right, from the very beginning. And so now you, your husband, and your very healthy, beautiful baby girl
Yeah.
is here. And the cancer did not hurt her at
Yeah.
all. And
But
she
that's
was
what
full
made
term.
me, my faith
Yes.
get stronger,
Yes.
and then when we found a church and he rededicated his life, he stopped doing the things he was doing, and it just like to watch it all unfold is just magical. And then going back to jail and seeing other people get saved, like, and other people in my family that I didn't think would ever find God, like just seeing how he's done, one thing by using my husband in a gas station to change my life and to get my kids saved and to get my mom saved and my grandma, it just, I don't know, it's amazing to
It
see.
is amazing. So now you are part of the jail ministry and
Hmm.
you go back to jail and talk to the women there and tell them your story
Yeah.
and give them the hope in Christ that you have.
Yes, and it's amazing. Yep, and that's my story, and it's all for his glory.